response to one smuggled in by Stack. It contained a number of headings. He urged that a provisional government should be set up, a provisional Republican government should be set up at once, even if it was unable to function only in a limited way. More significant was that he called for the democratic programme of the First Dáil, the social programme, adopted in January 1919, to be translated into something definite. Mellows said this needed to be done to keep the workers loyal to the Republic. He said, "This does not require a change of outlook on the part of Republicans or the adoption of a revolutionary programme as such. The headline is there in the Declaration of 1919. It's already part of Republican policy. It should be made clear what is meant by it. I would suggest, therefore, that it be interpreted something like the following, which appeared in the Workers' Republic of July 22nd last. Under the Republic, all industry will be controlled by the state for the workers' and farmers' benefit. All transport, railways, canals, etc. will be operated by the state, the Republican state, for the benefit of the workers and farmers. All banks will be operated by the state for the benefit of industry and agriculture, not for the purpose of profit making by loans and mortgages, etc. That the lands of the aristocracy who support the Free State and the British connection will be seized and divided among those who can and will operate it for the nation's benefit." He continued that imperialism in all its forms should be rejected, and urged Republicans to fully explain to the Irish people what the British Empire meant to the exploited of its colonies in India and beyond. He urged the Republican leadership to show the good work carried out by the Republic in people's courts, land settlements and decrees all through the War of Independence. He also called for an examination of the Catholic hierarchy's track record in standing with the oppressors against the people. He expanded on these themes in two other letters to Stack, urging the setting up of the Provisional Republican Government without delay and calling for Republicans to educate the youth. He wrote, "Many young soldiers were absorbed in the movement and fight, not educated into it, hence no real convictions." He raised the issue of unemployment, which was then running at almost 25%. "The unemployment question is acute," he wrote. "Starvation is facing thousands of people. The official labour movement has deserted the people for the flesh pots of the empire. The Free State attitude towards striking postal workers makes it clear what its attitude towards strikes generally will be. The situation created by all these must be utilised for the Republic. The position must be defined. Free State equals capitalism and industrialism equals empire. Republic equals workers equals labour." The notes from Mountjoy Jail show Mellows to be the most clear-thinking and far-sighted Republican leader of the Civil War period. It's clear that the events of the Four Courts, when he had watched workers going about their business, oblivious to the concerns of the Republicans inside, had had a great impact on him. He eagerly engaged in the debates and analysis in Mountjoy of how the Republican position could be advanced. The night before his death, he had taken part in a discussion on the role of women in industry. Unfortunately, he didn't get the opportunity to develop his thoughts further. On December 7th, 1922, 2 3A deputies were fired on in Dublin, and one of them, Sean Hales, West Cork, was killed. The next morning, Mellows, Rory O'Connor, Joe McKelvey and Dick Barrett were executed by firing squad. In reprisal, it was announced officially for the shooting of Hales. There was no trial. The killing of the four was a cabinet decision. They were chosen, it was said, to strike terror into the Republicans. Each man represented a province. It was also claimed. O'Connor, Leinster; Barrett, Munster; McKelvey, Ulster; and although a Leinster man himself, Mellows, he stood for Connacht with his connections from 1916. Mellows' programme was not adopted, and the Civil War ended in defeat. His suggestions were ignored. The democratic programme of the First Dáil remained a dead letter. To look at Mellows' relevance to Republicans today, it's necessary to look briefly at some of the core principles of the democratic programme, which was a development of the proclamation of 1916. It reads, "We declare that the nation's sovereignty extends not only to all men and women of the nation, but to all its material possessions, the nation's soil and all its resources, all the wealth and all the wealth-producing processes within the nation. And we reaffirm that all right to private property must be subordinated to the public right and welfare. We declare that we desire our country to be ruled in accordance with the principles of liberty, equality and justice for all, which alone can secure permanence of government in the will and adhesion of the people. It shall be our duty to promote the development of the nation's resources, to increase the productivity of the soil, to exploit its mineral deposits, peat bogs and fisheries, its waterways and harbours, in the interests and for the benefit of the Irish people." It's clear, therefore, that many of the issues touched on by Mellows in his notes from Mountjoy are as relevant now as when they were first written. Over 90 years, successive Irish governments have failed to translate the programme of the First Dáil into a programme for action. Instead, they've actively promoted inequality, greed, and have consistently put the needs of private property and capitalists before the common good. They have treated the nation's resources as if they were items in a car boot sale to be plundered by multinational corporations. Most recently, driving a pipeline through the Gaeltacht community of Rossport at the behest of Shell, using the Gardaí to forcefully put down the opposition of local people. While material conditions have improved right across the island, the gap between rich and poor has actually grown. People still wait years for decent, affordable or social housing. Private landlords remain almost free from regulation and responsibility. North and south, there remains a two-tier health system where only the ability to pay guarantees the highest levels of care and treatment. We still have an elitist school system in both states, and increasing course fees will further disadvantage children who most need access to higher education and training. Unemployment is rising with all the social problems it brings in its wake, and the emigration of our young people is once again a blight in the land. The failure to nationalise the banks decades ago helped create the conditions where private corporations and their allies in the conservative and right-wing political parties played Russian roulette with our country's finances. They've condemned our young people to generations of debt, and in the process squandered the opportunity to build first-class health and education systems for all to facilitate the greed of private developers. They failed to tackle too the question of partition, turned a blind eye to 50 years of sectarian discrimination in the north and the treatment of nationalists as second-class citizens, and the suppression of expressions of Irish culture and identity. Mellows' assertion, therefore, that the struggle for the Republic and Irish freedom had to be rooted in the day-to-day struggles of the people, particularly those of the people of no property, is as valid today as it was on the day it was executed. Even as the cannon roared in the Civil War, Mellows realised that the struggle for the Republic was unwinnable unless it was grounded in the achievement of equality, tackling poverty, redistributing the land, and developing the nation's natural resources for all the people of Ireland. It's this very battle of ideas between equality and justice on one hand, and inequality, greed, and injustice on the other that we are witnessing being played out in the current Free State elections. And Republicans are now at the forefront of the fight to achieve the Republic fought for by Mellows. Maeguier.